Hello everybody and welcome back to the Eternal Sonata playthrough. It is time to begin the final dungeon of Eternal Sonata. This is the Double Reed Tower of Sand, because obviously this also needs a really long title. Now, this is kind of an interesting one, so it makes sense why this is the Double Reed Tower, because there are ultimately two towers that we're going to be climbing up. So, there is the left tower and there is the right tower. There are, I think, a grand total of 4 bosses that we're going to have to face going up these towers. And basically the idea is that once you've beaten them all, you'll be able to get to the final boss. I don't know why they decided that the final dungeon of this game should be a double reed. Because ultimately, so a double reed is a type of reed used to produce sound in various wind instruments. So basically, if you look at any sort of wind instrument, it's the thin strip of material which vibrates to produce a sound on a musical instrument. So, it's the bit that you sort of put in your mouth and blow. And basically the difference with a double reed is that the two reeds vibrate against each other. Oh well, I'm getting myself slightly confused there. Oh god. But basically it comes from the fact that there are 2 pieces of cane vibrating against each other rather than 1. So basically these are things like the bassoon, oboes, cor anglaise, which is just an English horn, a heckelphone, a sarrusophone, and then you've got some more period instruments. So you have a cornemuse, a crumhorn, a courtholt, a roche fife, a hurtenschlamai, don't even know. And apparently those are instruments where the reed is fully enclosed in a wind cap. You've got a racket and a shawm, which are instruments where the reed's partially enclosed in a pirouette. And then you've got instruments where the reed is fully exposed, which is a baroque bassoon, baroque oboe, a dulcian, or dulcian, oboe de cassia, a racket, and a sordon. See, I don't quite get why this is the final dungeon in a way, because you would have thought that since, you know, this is Chopin's Dream, it'd be based on the piano. In fact, I do strongly feel that this final dungeon perhaps would have been better if it were more strongly based on the piano in some form. Just because I think that that would round out the game quite nicely. I mean, this is still quite effective. Well, it's a decent dungeon, but you're basically just trying to figure out which paths to take to get up to the different bits of the tower, because you've got the northwest wing, the southwest wing, northeast wing and the southeast wing, which is where you're trying to head. And I suppose that the sand that's involved in this, you've got a whole thing that you could say that it is like an hourglass in a way, time's running out. I really wanted a challenge. Or at least we need to bring it to a point where time will begin to run out. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the sand to fall from the top down to the bottom, so that then we can get to where Legato as the ruined body is. Whilst we've been levelling up, we've gained a few really awesome special attacks on Viola. Well, 1 on Viola and 2 on Polka. So, Full Barrage is amazing. Basically, Viola shoots arrows into the air and it rains down all over the battlefield. And it's deadly. And certainly the way that I would recommend doing any of your harmony chains if you've got Viola in the party is start with Full Barrage, end with a heal arrow. Because then you can think of it as I'm getting off a brilliant attack and then healing off the back of it. Polka also got some decent stuff because she got Terra Externa, which is effectively the dark version of Pure Geyser, which hits any enemy on the battlefield, well, all enemies on the battlefield, and Blossom Shower, which is her kind of most powerful healing move, which is definitely useful. I would say it's at this point that Polka is probably at her most useful in a way, because Blossom Shower is really helpful. I'd say it's definitely better than Heal Arrow, but Viola is still the better fighter, and that's why I will always err towards her rather than Polka for my healing duties. But I will say, like, I do think that once you've gotten to this point in the game, you've gotten pretty much all of the special attacks. Oh yes, this is the point now where I was just like, you know what? These battles are taking up far too long. I'm going to begin, where necessary, to just sort of crop down to level ups, unless something particularly fun happens in that. So for instance, now that we've got Bloody Plume, which is brilliant. It's effectively the dark version of Sunslash.
Let's go.
We'll make use of that. Well, I think, to tell a lie, I think what occurred there was I had another recording glitch in the middle of a battle, and I was just like, for God's sake! It was ridiculous, and oh, I didn't realise that these guys turned into dragons when they were in the dark. I'm fine with that happening. You know, it's surprising what you find out about enemies when you're running through these things, because you're just like, oh, I didn't know you did that. And I don't think the poor thing's going to get a chance to attack, but that's fine, because the important bit is that, oh no, I decided I would give it a chance to attack so we could see its name, which is Black Onyx. But yeah, it's not surviving for very much longer. So yeah, Bloody Plume on Allegretto is basically his dark version of Starlight Blast. So you do sort of reach the point where a lot of these moves are just alternates of each other, but as you get further on they do get better, and that said, I do like that even the moves that you've had from the start, some of them are still very useful. I mean, obviously, I've not really gotten rid of Sunslash at all throughout the majority of my journey through Eternal Sonata, because it's just a good move. Same with quite a few of the others, actually. And I think once we get everyone up to, I think it's about level 50, it might be level 52. I think that tends to be the cap on everyone learning all of their moves. I have the feeling Polka might have already learned all of hers, but I'm not 100% sure on that fact. Either way, it's totally fine.
You foolish creatures.
But one thing that I would probably recommend doing in this dungeon is, yeah, making sure you do use this as an opportunity to level up, because these are the best enemies you're going to get unless you do the optional dungeon. So, really, this is your time to get up to whatever level you want to be for the final boss. And I would say mid-50s is about right for that. And considering you've got 4 bosses to take down on the route to the final boss, well, yeah, you should have ample opportunity to achieve that. And I like how I'm just like, who do I want to put in a party now, just to keep it all a little bit fresher. Keep you all with slightly different characters to just give you something slightly different to look at. Because I know, as I've said before, when I first played Eternal Sonata, I kind of stuck with my party. I had my 3 and pretty much stuck with them. And I love the battle system in Eternal Sonata. It's a lot of fun, but if you're just sticking with the same characters throughout the entire run, it can get a little bit samey, and obviously that can hamper it. Well, obviously if it's getting samey, it begins to get a little bit boring, and so on and so forth. So it was certainly why throughout this doing this playthrough I wanted to make sure I kept shifting, because it made sense to try and keep it changing up a bit. Otherwise it just would have been, you know, really quite a little bit boring. But that's totally fine, because we are continually evolving with this, and that's delightful. But yes, we are slowly but surely coming up to the top of the West Tower, I believe. Got a bit to go. There's also something that quite interesting is going to occur throughout this dungeon, because after you've beaten every mini-boss, or we'll call them mini-bosses because that's effectively what they are for this dungeon, you can sort of see this as a bit of a boss rush in a way, as you go through the dungeon. But it's the type of boss rush that I am okay with happening, because one, it's not just a straight boss rush against bosses that you've faced a ridiculous number of times. But also there is a dungeon splitting up the boss rush so it doesn't get overly tedious. Although that said, this dungeon is quite long, because obviously it is the final proper dungeon of the game. And rightly so that it is quite long, because you don't go into a Japanese RPG and expect the final dungeon to be really short. That would just be so incredibly wrong. But still. Anyway, I think we'll soon be getting Frederick's best healing move. I hope we get it sooner rather than later, because I'd quite like that, because it means that Frederick's even more useful in battle. And that's brilliant. Now, something I should also point out about the double reed tower is that it can get a little bit confusing. If only if you want to get all of the items from the treasure chests, because to get quite a few of them, you have to go up a level to go down a level. If that makes any sense. Obviously it makes sense, but it's maybe not necessarily quite as intuitive as you would at first hope it would be. But it's just one of those things, so sort of you kind of end up going up and down and up and down and up and down as you explore. And I suppose at least it does it incentivises exploring the dungeon a bit more. I'd say it's not quite as well done as Super Mario Odyssey, which, as of this recording, is out. I mean, it was already out anyway, but still. It came out last Friday as of this recording, and I've already funneled in a ridiculous number of hours into it, because it's just a game I can't put down. But what Super Mario Odyssey does is it puts, like, either power moons or coins in locations that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be in. So if you're making sure to explore, try interesting platforming maneuvers, they reward you for it, and you're just like, why are there coins here? I don't know, but I love that there are coins here, because it means that they thought about what people might be able to pull off, and giving people a little reward for managing it, because that's just always quite fun. This dungeon obviously doesn't hit those levels, but obviously these are the differences between a platforming game and a Japanese RPG. You can have a lot more creativity in how you structure a platforming game, whereas with a Japanese RPG, the primary thing you're dealing with is the combat and the dungeon layout. You don't really have... There are only so many options you can have with where you hide things, effectively. By the way, I think we're just going to take on this fella, just to get up one more level, you know? And then it's mini-boss time.
Break free from the cage that holds you. Soaring skies.
And yeah, these mini-bosses are all bosses that we have faced before throughout the game, so you should know roughly how to take them on. Obviously they're more challenging than they were before, but that's to be expected at this point in the game. Because why the hell would you want to have a mini-boss in the final dungeon that's easier than the boss that you took down maybe right at the start of the game, perhaps?
Transforming weakness into strength. Strength will surely become weakness. Flower rage. Willow strike. Howling thunder. Not a challenge at all.
Oh, that's good. We've got Salsa and March levelling up as well to level 50, so success! And Salsa's learned Deadly Circle! And Lunar Stream. Lunar Stream is March's equivalent of Corona Stream, and it's not as fun. But yeah, Deadly Circle is the light version of that. Obviously, I will make use of Lunar Stream at least once, but yeah, that's going to be heading off quite quickly. Because, really? Nah. And, I like that we have, everyone bar Falsetto and Poke are up to level 50. And so we should probably, you know, put them into the boss fight. Even though they're the lower levels, it just makes sense because then they are going to get all the experience and that's going to put them on par with everyone. It makes sense. And also you may have noticed around this time, you can end up in situations where your other party members will level up even though they are not in battle. Obviously it's because they get a bit of experience, but they don't get the full whack. And sometimes like you go and you're just like, oh, wait a minute. What's going on here? And it can get slightly confusing. Anyway, here is our first mini-boss. Look familiar? Yes, it should. This is a shadowy version of the Forest Boar from, like, the second dungeon in the game. Basically, deal with him exactly the same as you did the last time. But obviously you're much more capable now because, like, Frederick's a badass. Falsetto, who I've decided to bring into this because she needed to the levels, is also a badass. And it helps because Polka now has a move that can hit from any distance in the light and the dark, which is great. And yeah, it's the Herculean Boar. And just to reiterate, the Herculean Boar, not the whatever else it sounded like I might have said. See, this is what happens when accents come into play. The way you merge words together and how you pronounce certain sounds can get you in a lot of trouble with certain words. Thankfully that's not necessarily one of them. Although boar, when I've said Herculean boar, could potentially sound like more. But yeah, it's fine. Now, I will say that I have put myself in a slightly dangerous position with using Phantom Pain, because it's up to the attack of the Herculean Boar, and obviously that can be slightly dangerous for everyone else, because he could actually put in quite a bit of hurt. But thankfully, getting the timing down again for blocking his things, and obviously Falsetto's very, very, very easily ramping up those hits. She's like a combo badass, is Falsetto. It's why she is probably one of my favourite characters to have in a party. Obviously she doesn't fit into my key team of Jazz, Allegretto and Viola, but she's certainly one of the most fun to play as. Just because she is easily the fastest combo. I mean, Jazz does pretty well on the combos and stuff, but Falsetto can just sort of rack up. I mean, obviously, like 44 hits before we've even gotten into the special attack. That's just, like, insane. And come on! So close! You can tell he's weak at this point, so it's just like, just need to bring it on home. Ah, I got too cocky. Couldn't kill him with a special attack. Gosh darn it. It's fine, because that's really quickly bringing Polka and Falsetto up to speed, which is delightful. She also learns Dragon Blow. And come on, you're gonna learn Tri-crescendo? Next time, hopefully. But yes, as the Herculean ball fades away, the sun will begin to flow, and then we're going to get a nice little lesson in philosophy from our party members. And these are quite fascinating, I have to say.
Say what you like, but don't you think it's a little far-fetched to claim that this world only exists inside your dream?
I simply don't know. But I do know that I was born in the city of Warsaw, in the country of Poland, and that it was in the year 1810.
Warsaw? Poland? I've never heard of places with names like that before. And you can even tell us what year. You've put an awful lot of effort into this.
Wait, have you ever tried thinking about it like this? Maybe the truth is the exact opposite. This is the real world, and that city called Warsaw is actually a dream. That would make a lot more sense.
I agree. I've known Jazz since I was just a little girl, and we've been living our lives each day at a time, just like everybody else in the world.
That may be, but this world is unquestionably a dream. A dream I'm experiencing as I drift over the abyss of death.
You really believe that? It's not like we're just acting out a role in a story that somebody wrote. We've been using our own free will and judgment to act for ourselves.
Yes. However, even when in a dream, a person can decide his or her own actions. They can decide what happens next. In that respect, there is no way to differentiate between a dream and reality.